Hello, I'm Robert Picardo.
I'm Sylvester McCoy.
I'm John Bett.
And we are the cast of A Joke, and you are listening to Kneel
Before Pod.
Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
Hello, and welcome to another Quantum edition of Kneel Before Pod, the quantum podcast that knows how to quantum. I'm Craig, your quantum host, and this episode is devoted to the latest quantum release in the Marvel Cinematic Universe quantum canon. In case you couldn't guess from my overuse of the word quantum, that film is Ant-Man and The Wasp, finally hitting UK shores after a quantum delay thanks to the World Cup. Strap into your quantum submarine and join us on a deep dive into this quantum entry. Joining me from his latest trip into the microverse, it's Andrew.
Hello there!
Hello. How does it feel to be normal sized and not in a swirly, acid trippy thing?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of an adjustment, because I think my time floating around in a trippy, swirly mess is quite an experience, and also one that's not entirely dissimilar to when I'm on prescription painkillers.
That's good. Any nondescript superpowers we should know about?
None that I've noticed at the moment, though I am going to be extra careful the next time I'm in the bathroom, because there always seems to be bathroom where they manifest.
It does. So many sinks. So many destroyed sinks. Spider-Man, Thunder, and Wolverine with his crappy CGI claws. All destroyed a bathroom. Anyway, that's a complete digression. Before we start talking about this tiny movie that was recently released, we shall go to our normal segment, Kneel Before, Rise Against. It's no longer a pilot, it's now a thing. It's just a thing that we do all the time. So I'm going to start us off with my Kneel Before, which is 4 words. 4 glorious words. Well, it's more than 4 words, actually. Jean-Luc Picard is back. 5 words. It's great.
Doesn't Jean-Luc count as one word because it's hyphenated?
Yeah, I suppose. However many words it is, it's amazing. I never thought I'd see the day where Patrick Stewart would return as Picard, but it's happening. It could be a mini-series, it could be a fully fledged TV series, it could be anything. It could be, I don't know, it could be a dream. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but we get to see him reprise the role once again, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, and that's pretty much how I feel about it as well. Just because it's Picard, and we get more Picard. And there's really not much more elaboration you need to do on it.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll get like Riker and whoever else to turn up and make a cameo. You know, maybe he'll be an admiral and he'll go aboard the Titan for one last mission. He'll be that admiral that's in command of the mission but not the ship. And Riker will be like, piss off, this is my ship. I don't know. Be pretty cool if that was the case.
Yeah, but that's just it though. There's so many possibilities. And every single one of them just sound wonderful.
Yeah. I dare say we'll find out more about it. I don't know when they'll plan to release it, possibly next year sometime. So, you know, he's in his mid to late 70s, so he's got quite a bit of time to catch up on. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's just going to be great. I don't have anything to say about it. We could spend an entire podcast speculating about the Picard series, but let's not.
Yeah, well, to be honest, we could probably spend an entire podcast just making inarticulate fanboy screaming noises.
We could try that too. I don't know if that'd be much fun for listeners, but we'll see. So, what are you kneeling before?
Well, I am kneeling before the return of one of my favourite current TV series, Winona Earp. And this is a kind of a horror fantasy western hybrid, which is about a woman named Winona who is a descendant of Wyatt Earp. Who it actually turned out, as well as being a famous gunslinger, was also a demon hunter. And in each generation of descendants, the eldest inherits his gun and the ability to kill demons with it. As I mentioned, this is one of my favourite series. I mean, this is the third season of it now, and it's coming back even more intense than it had previously, just with lots of action and humour and emotion, and holy hell, did they actually just do that kind of moments.
Cool. I've never seen this show. It's kind of been on my list, but this list never gets any shorter, so it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So one of these days, once it's been finished for like 18 years, I'll eventually get around to watching it.
Sounds about right, yeah. Although one interesting thing about it that I think that's worth mentioning is that it's quite frequently observed that Winona as a character is more or less a female version of Dean Winchester.
All right.
If you can imagine such a thing, because she's just brilliant. She is snarky and sarcastic, and fearless, and frequently drunk, and even more frequently horny. Yeah, she's great.
Cool. So that's Hack, and that's good. One of these days I might check it out. I imagine other listeners are happy too. Yeah, cool. So, on to Rise Against. I am going to rise against what we've heard about Star Wars Episode 9 under the direction of J.J. Abrams. Every single thing that he's said about it is something that I am not interested in. Snoke flashbacks? No. Luke Skywalker as a ghost? I kind of thought it would happen, but I'm not sure how interesting that'll be. Deleted footage of Leia from Force Awakens? Nah. It was probably deleted for a reason. And how are you going to sandwich it in? You know, I don't know. It just sounds like after doing something interesting with Episode 8, they're going back to the kind of well of, nah, let's just keep it the same. You know, I suppose after the backlash, it's like, well, you fans get what you deserve. You get a franchise that stagnates, and it seems like that's exactly what we're going to get here.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. I'm aware that I'm in something of a minority for intensely disliking The Force Awakens. I was really disappointed with everything that Abrams did with it. I felt the whole thing was just too heavily recycled from the previous movies, and I thought that what Rian Johnson did with Last Jedi was a vast improvement over it, and actually became very, very frustrated with all of the fandom whining about like not every single minute aspect of it was exactly how they had envisioned it should happen. Yeah, and so now it just looks like it's going to be something of a repetition. It's just going over previous things again, particularly with this, which is supposedly supposed to draw like the whole episode saga to a close. Then I can't see how it's going to be ending with anything but a whimper.
Yeah. I don't dislike Force Awakens as such. I just find it kind of okay. You know, I think that the characters that were introduced are great, and I think they belonged in a better film. It was too derivative of A New Hope for me, as I've said on previous podcasts and innumerable conversations I've had with people. But Last Jedi was much more my speed. Although the thing is, the way the fandom sort of reacted to The Last Jedi, in terms of, you know, this kind of minority of loud people just complaining about it persistently, I do recognise that people have legitimate issues with the film, and unfortunately a lot of people that have those kind of get labelled with the, oh, you're just a hater of this for this reason and whatever. But no, I think it was divisive and interesting, but I don't think this is going to be interesting. I think it's just going to be, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of J.J. Abrams anyway, as it is, you know, and I think you've got the biggest franchise in the world, really, and you've got access to all of the talent in Hollywood that you could ask for, and they pick this guy again. It's just so mediocre. So yeah, not a fan of I mean, it may turn out to be great. I hope to be proved wrong, because I don't want to be sitting there at midnight next Christmas thinking, "Oh my God, this sucks." I want to be sitting there at midnight enjoying myself. So we'll see. So, what is your rise against?
Yes, well, I am rising against the announcement that the makers of the Venom movie are aiming for a PG-13 rating for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which I find incredibly frustrating, mainly for two reasons. It's like the first of which is it's been demonstrated that the R-rated superhero movies such as Deadpool and Logan are still able to make all the money in the world, despite it being more difficult for younger audiences to see them. And it was going some way towards eliminating the small amounts of remaining stigma about comic book things being for kids.
Yeah.
Things that but the main frustrating about it though is the fact that Venom as a character is incredibly violent, and to deliberately try to tone down that violence runs the risk of diluting the what the character is and the impact that his actions will have.
Yeah, well, I'm actually so glad you brought this up, because I think the rating is the least of this film's problems, at least based on what I've seen so far.
True, yes, but
that latest trailer was hilariously terrible. Just, I mean, that turd on the wind line, Jesus. That's, I don't know, it just looks like a parody of a 90s superhero movie. Like, earlier trailers made it look like they were making a 90s superhero, now it looks like they're making a spoof of a 90s superhero movie. And I can't imagine any scenario where this film turns out to be any good at this point. You've destroyed one of the fundamentals of his origin story by removing Spider-Man from it. They're sanitizing the rating, I guess, because they maybe figured out that it's not going to make that much money. Potentially not going to make that much money because it looks like crap. So I think that they're maybe cutting their losses by opening it up to 13-year-old boys who will be the only people interested in that dialogue, surely. Because of turd on the wind and all this talk about eating limbs and all this nonsense. It just, wow, it looks bad. And Sony's Spider-Verse without Spider-Man in it, that can bugger off as well. I mean, what is that about?
Well, if anything, it seems like they're trying to do a version of the Gotham TV series, like Batman without Batman.
Yeah. Kraven the Hunter, like.
Oh my God.
That's a whole other rise against.
There's so much wrong with that as a concept.
So that's that. Venom, the rating, and possibly the whole film,
and just everything else about it.
Yeah. Cool. So let's move on to our main event. We are here to talk about the recently released Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, Ant-Man and The Wasp. So before we go into spoiler territory, what are your thoughts on this as a film without spoiling it?
In general, I quite enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was anything even approaching as good as the first one, which I absolutely loved, and actually ranked it as one of my top 10 films of 2015. It was able to follow on well enough from both the first film and also from the subsequent MCU events, and fit in well enough in that respect. It was quite a lot of fun though. It wasn't too much more than that though. In general, I thought.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it was I think that the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, they have sort of a baseline of quality. And I think it's on that baseline. You know, I think it's, yeah, this is what we can kind of, this is the least we can expect from these guys. This is, you know, it's well made, it's paced well enough, it's watchable enough, it has enough humour. You know, it has enough. It does enough to just keep itself above that line. It's not great though. And they're just kind of, it feels like a very disposable entry, which, you know, is the intention because it's coming out after Infinity War but set before it. So it's, you know, it's supposed to be a bit of fun. Although I think the first one had much more substance to it. And yeah, I don't know, I wasn't disappointed as such, but I wasn't like blown away by it. Okay, on that note then, since we need to talk more about it, shall we dive into the spoiler realm?
Bring it.
You know, dodge the tardigrades and whatever else. Okay, we're in the spoiler section, so I think it's probably prudent to do a bit of a quick chat about the first film and what we thought of that. I kind of alluded to that in the pre-spoiler section. I thought the first film was great, and there was a lot of kind of scrutiny against it because you had some issues with the director Edgar Wright leaving over creative differences, so we never find out what his film would have been or even what those creative differences were. But it's kind of, turns out it's one of the, well, it wasn't even the first, but it's you know, one of those well documented weird decisions that Disney / Marvel have made regarding directors, you know. And I think, considering that, it turned out really, really well. The heist element was really good. I liked that the stakes weren't apocalyptic, and at the end how they made fun of that by having a Man of Steel style collateral damage induced thing in a little girl's bedroom with a Thomas the Tank Engine playset and all this. It was brilliant. It was really funny. The characters were good. It was just, yeah, it was really good. It was a nice surprise. It was a bit different. The shrinking gags and the way they used the size stuff was brilliant. So yeah, the first one, really rated it.
Yeah, I'm completely the same. Yeah, as I mentioned, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I did think like it was preemptively judged a little unfairly, like with the departure of Edgar Wright. Yeah, because as a result of that, then it was effectively being compared to a film that doesn't exist and never will. But in everybody's head was going to be something special and spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the end, it managed to completely defy that and come together not only as a really good film in and of itself, but also a very, very good example of one of the MCU films, which are more or less of quite a high benchmark quality. Also, really liked the fact that it was effectively a heist film rather than specifically a superhero film. It had characters from comic books and was using comic book pseudoscience. But aside from that, it could easily have been like another heist film with a great assortment of characters, which was another thing what I liked about it is every character in it they felt like a proper presence, and they each had a purpose and a reason to be there, which each added something to the story.
Yeah. As usual, it had a crap villain. You know, that's an MCU staple as well.
It is, yes.
Which, you know, takes us into this film.
Indeed.
We'll start with the characters and you know, the story inevitably comes into that, so we'll just kind of merge everything together. I would say this one's more of an ensemble piece than the first one. The first one was very much Scott's story about, you know, redeeming himself after prison, finding his place in the world. This one's much more about, I guess, expanding the mythology, and, you know, the focus shifts to because the emotional story kind of belongs to Hope and Hank, who are obviously looking for Janet, who's stuck in the quantum realm, as we knew before. So they're looking for her, whereas Scott is kind of like running out the clock until he can join the real world again, and I feel like the emotional moments belong to them rather than him, and he's just kind of along for the ride.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. In the first film, Scott's whole arc was essentially proving himself to be worthy of being a father.
Yeah.
And being somebody whose daughter can admire. There was a particular line that I really liked it. Out the first one is where his ex was trying to encourage him, but by saying just be the person she already thinks you are. Which I just thought was like a lovely way of looking at it.
Yeah,
and it's established quite early on in this film that he now has a great relationship with his daughter, and the issues that he has with his ex and her new guy have been resolved because it's clear that they're all. If not really close, and then they're at least friends, and yes, and they're people who can get on well enough with each other, so that Cassie has something resembling a normal life.
Yeah, and it is an interesting sort of family dynamic because in a lesser sort of franchise or film, it would end with. I'm thinking of San Andreas here, which is a film that I really like, but it ends with him getting kind of back with his the wife that he's divorced, which, whatever. But here it's like, no, we have to maintain this separation because they split up for a reason, and him suddenly being a superhero isn't going to repair that as such. And so this film kind of has, it has that distance. It has the, sometimes she's at dad's, sometimes she's at mum's, and they've kind of, the animosity that existed between them's kind of gone. Although I would say that Judy Greer is almost pointless in this film. She does nothing. She's just in a couple of scenes. Yeah, I agree with that. Because it's almost as if they just felt it was necessary to have her back again just purely because she was in the first one. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, if you need to have the daughter, then you need to have the mum and all that stuff. But his daughter was far less annoying in this film as well. I found her really annoying in the first one for some reason. But she's far less annoying now.
Yeah, well, I didn't actually mind her too much the first time round. Yeah, though I did like her a lot more in this though, because in the couple of years, she's certainly grown up a little bit more, and she's a lot more thoughtful and observant,
yeah.
and also has quite a mischievous sense of humour.
Yeah. What about Scott since Civil War? Right, the last time we saw him in Civil War, he was locked up in the raft, which is, Stark's even like, I can't believe they put you in here. This is ridiculous. This is for really horrible people. But then, obviously, Civil War ends with, the unconscious guards in the raft, and then Steve looking into the camera to suggest, I've broken all these guys out. So it's really weird how, I don't know, we get to this point where Scott is under house arrest. When does he make this deal? Does he just turn himself in after getting broken out, or
Yeah. Well, that was my assumption, really. It's because I decided that after being broken out the raft, he realised that a life as a fugitive isn't one that he can maintain.
yeah,
and also if he were to try to undertake it, then he would likely never get to see his daughter again.
Yeah.
which is pretty much like the driving force of everything that he does. So I think he turned himself in, and I managed to negotiate some kind of plea deal so that ultimately he'd be able to put it all behind him.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hugely important. It's just one of those. I don't know. I don't think the writers or custodians of this franchise know what they're really doing with the Sokovia Accords and what they actually mean, kind of outside the context of Civil War, because they just throw them in. You know, and every superhero is to be registered, or you breach the Accords, or whatever else. So, do they have to be registered? Does Spider-Man have to be registered? You know, I don't know.
Yes, things and you have to be registered if technically you're not a superhero, but you have access to this technology.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all a bit of a mess. But you know, he's under house arrest, and he has his routine, his very funny routine. You know, where he chucks a ball about, plays a drum set. You know, the electric drum set. Has a bath for 2 hours a day, it would seem.
Yes, and builds an elaborate cardboard labyrinth.
Yeah, that was cool. That was very elaborate, but very cool. And I don't know. I don't know. It seems like he's a bit bored, which he would be. I feel like if I was stuck in the house for 2 years and wasn't allowed to leave, it wouldn't impact my life that much. I wouldn't be able to go to the cinema, I suppose. That would be a problem.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much the only issue I would have.
Yeah.
Though if I were in a situation, probably to be like, I'll book it in. Well, I'll then have time to get around to watching these several hundred DVDs that I have bought but not actually looked at yet.
Yeah, it would work. Yeah. The catalyst to the plot is really when he has that dream. You know, that vision of when she was younger,
right,
being, you know, playing hide and seek with Janet, where she hides in the same place all the time, kind of missing the point of the game, as Scott hilariously says. But it's yeah, so that's the catalyst for the plot, and then he phones them, and then, you know, it gets moving, and then you get kind of the you get the reintroduction of Hope and Hank, who are like, yeah, we're trying to find her. Your trip into the quantum realm that inspired us to get moving with this again. We're doing it again. Brilliant. Fantastic. And they need to do some science, some kind of science involving Scott to get a hold of her. I think, you know, the narrative stuff is kind of all over the place, but the emotional stuff is good. You know, where Hope's nervous about seeing her mother again in case she's forgotten her. There's no telling what the quantum realm will have done to her, like emotionally or physically. Hank's anxious about seeing his wife again, but again, they're very driven to finding her and bringing her back.
And I like that there was like a different focus to it this time around, because if we were to have another story which was mostly revolved around Scott, then it would end up seeming like too much of a retread of the first film.
Yeah.
And also having the focus switch to Hope and Hank also gave the opportunity to explore them as characters in a bit more detail.
Yeah, well, they're very much embracing the fact that they're father and daughter, whereas Hope was distanced from him in the first film, and that was part of her arc to get to the point where she accepts Hank as her father again, and, you know, repairs that relationship. So what you see is them as a team, because they've sorted their differences and they're ready to get on with life, and you know, together they make a really effective fighting force. He's the brains and whatever, and she's the muscle, so to speak. And I really liked the expansion of Hope's role into superhero stuff. Although the thing is, it's one of those. I feel like they've done one of those things that the mistakes they make with female characters sometimes, where they try and make them kind of flawless. You know, so she's like, she's effortlessly badass. Her skills are like way better than Scott's. She has better tech than Scott's. She never seems to slip up in a fight. She knows exactly what she's doing. You know, it's almost like they're afraid to make her more fallible. Although the vulnerability's there in other areas, but you don't see her make any mistakes while she's fighting and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's a mistake that that is often made with female characters. I've always thought it to the writers just being wary of any mistakes that they do make. Will be perceived as them having made that mistake because they're a woman.
Yeah.
Or that they lost this fight because they're a woman. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, they end up being too good at everything. Which can actually end up having the opposite effect in actually diminishing them as fully rounded people.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't necessarily happen here. I mean, like I said, they do kind of let her be vulnerable. They let her be open and honest about how she's feeling about getting her mother back and stuff like that. But it feels like that's kind of few and far between. There's a couple of scenes where that happens, and then there's other scenes where she's just mowing down everyone in the room effortlessly. She does get knocked out though, where Scott doesn't, I suppose. Or she wakes up slightly later than he does.
Although I think that was just because Ghost wanted to talk to him first.
Yeah, for some reason. I think Hope's a really good character. I think she has a lot of potential, especially as the Wasp now. Maybe give her a film where she interacts with other characters, or has to do something without Scott there, because it'd be interesting to explore her maybe outside of the trappings of the supporting cast in this film. So maybe see who she is without Hank in her life and all this stuff. I don't know if what the plans are for these characters, whether they'll just turn up in Avengers movies or they'll get another movie or whatever. But I think the Wasp would be a good character to kind of launch a sub-series of films out of.
There is always rumblings of some kind of female character team up.
Yeah.
And if that were to ever come to fruition, then I think she would be quite a good addition to it.
For sure. Yeah. If that ever happens, there's enough of them, sort of, kind of lingering in the background.
It's like here and there.
Yeah. What about Hank? We learned a lot about his past. I mean, it's no surprise that he's a dick, right? Everyone seems to just not get along with him. And his former partner, Bill, who just hates him. And they had a massive falling out over his ego, although it seems like there was more to it than that, especially considering what Bill does in this film. But there's this kind of Hank alienated everybody at S.H.I.E.L.D. progressively, apart from Janet for some reason. And I would have liked to see a bit more of that. I don't really know what I was after, but the suggestion of Hank's past, maybe it's because I think Hank Pym's a really interesting character to play with, and I don't think you'll ever get to the schizophrenic that he is in the comics, or the guy that imprints his personality onto robots and whatever else. There's some really bizarre, terrible stuff that they've done to Hank Pym over the years. And I don't think the sanitized MCU will do that. But
yeah. And was he not also like a domestic abuser at one point?
Yeah, they'll definitely not do that.
No.
Which is weird, because Michael Douglas playing that kind of unhinged character would be awesome. Whereas he just seems kind of sarcastic and grumpy, which is the closest you'll ever get, I guess.
I noticed some in the credits. There was quite a large number of writers that were credited for the script and screenplay and story and whatnot, and from which we can assume that that story went through numerous revisions and iterations and alterations as it was being developed. And I got the feeling that in some previous version of the story that there was a lot more development of Hank's past, and I think the precise actions and reasons which caused him to alienate everybody would would have been looked at more closely, like possibly with some more like de-aged flashback scenes.
Yeah, although I think there's possibly a young Hank Pym film out there somewhere that we could watch, but there's definitely enough there to play with his time at Shield and things like that. But I don't know. I don't think they'll ever make it. Although the de-aging special effects are getting better. I keep saying that
they are,
have to practice to get these right. And while there were sometimes I was like, yeah, that kind of looks stapled on or whatever. On the whole, I bought it, and I think that it's come leaps and bounds. I mean, I remember the first time I ever saw it was in X-Men 3.
Yeah, I was just going to say that was dreadful.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't that bad in X-Men 3. It wasn't as bad as it was in Wolverine, X Origins Wolverine. And we've had it in Ant-Man, the first one, with Michael Douglas again. Everyone else was aged up in that scene. That was only one scene. And again, it was, you're not quite crossing the uncanny valley, but you're getting there. And I think they really need to play with this tech to get it right, and it's good enough. Apparently, Kurt Russell in Guardians 2 wasn't CGI'd at all. He just knows a really good makeup artist.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's the one he brings with him in every film he does, apparently. So they're a bit of a tidbit on de-aging, but yeah. I think they were smart to keep the de-aging scenes to a minimum, because otherwise you would question them more than you do. The Lawrence Fishburne one, I was like, whoa. I wasn't prepared for this. What's going on? You do get a bit of a flavour of what else he was up to. The Goliath project that we know about from Civil War, because Scott grows to an immense size in Civil War. Turns out it was practiced on this Bill guy. So that would make him really hate this, but in the Civil War comic, Black Goliath.
Yep.
I think it's the same guy's name as well.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Let's watch out for Thor clones. Watch out. You never know when a Thor clone will show up in your day. But I don't know if we'll see any more of that character. It feels really weird that they got Lawrence Fishburne to play him, considering how smallish a role he has. And then, as soon as he's introduced, because Lawrence Fishburne's playing him, you're like, he's going to be like affiliated with a villain in some way. He's not showing up just to tell them how to track a building.
Exactly. Yeah. That's precisely what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's like well, okay. Well, for the purposes of what we're being told, that's all his character's purpose. Yeah, but because it's him, then we know he's going to come back again.
Yeah.
And it's a bit, and the possibilities for which he can do so are a little limited.
Yeah, pretty much. The villains were probably some of the weakest we've had in the MCU, I would say, like in total. I mean, Walton Goggins, he was supposed to... I think they were both supposed to just be an annoyance. The film's not about them fighting these villains, they're just an irritation that keeps them from accomplishing their goal, rather than being something they actively need to destroy or take down or whatever. Like, Walton Goggins was just... it's weird how competent he's supposed to be in the first scene you see him, and then later on he's an idiot with an inept henchman.
Honestly, I was thinking that his character and that whole subplot could actually have been completely written out of the film, like with very little changes needing to be made.
Yeah, you'd miss out on a sweet car chase.
There's that, yes.
Yeah. And Truth Serum. Let's not forget the Truth Serum.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Yeah, although I thought he was better than Ghost. Ghost was cool visually. I liked the way that that her form just kind of ghosted. So you kind of saw her just struggling to maintain cohesion, and there was an air of tragedy built in there. But there was something a bit Winter Soldier-ish about it as well. I've been. They figured out I had powers, so they turned me into a spy, a killer, an assassin, whatever. And it was like a bit of Hydra chucked in there, I suppose. But she was kind of dull. And then the scene where she's like, "Here's my backstory." It's almost like they forgot to give her one. It's like, oh crap, put it in this scene.
Yeah, you actually have to put in something to make people care about her.
Well, I did like that the phone rang as she was like expositing. It's like.
I was really frustrated with her whole character. Just because she had so much potential to have been so much more interesting than that. In some recent films, Marvel have been getting a little better with their villains.
Phase 3 was good for villains.
Yeah, and in particular, like with giving the villains motivations, like that you might not necessarily agree with, but you can understand them.
Yeah,
and you can understand what it is that's driving them. Like in particular with villains like Thanos and Killmonger. Yeah, and I think with Ghost there was the potential to have that as well. Yeah, because this is effectively someone who has been more or less tortured and experimented on for about 20 years or so, and seemingly driven a little insane in the process. And with a character with her kind of history and experiences, then I think you can actually sympathise with the way that she acts. And I also like her actress Hannah John Kamen. I think she's absolutely brilliant. Because she is there's a sci-fi action series called Killjoys. Where she is the central character in that, and she's absolutely fantastic in it. And I was hoping that her role in this film would be something that will allow more people to take notice of her.
Yeah, I've never seen Killjoys, but it's on the list.
Yes.
Yeah, bloody list. I don't have time to watch this list. It's just the villain problem, and her motivations are kind of fair enough. She wants to get access to this lab so she can siphon energy from Janet to heal herself, which is like, it seems a bit weirdly convoluted, because it just does. I mean, I feel like it could all be solved by, Bill seems like a decent guy. Like, he was like, I'm not going to let you kidnap Scott's daughter. I'm not going to let you do this. There's lines I'm not willing to cross. You think for the sake of saving this effectively surrogate daughter of his, he might have swallowed his pride and thought, you know what, Hank Pym is going to know what to do here. Let's
exactly.
ask Hank.
Like to just ask for help.
Yeah. And maybe in a more beefed up version of their relationship, you would have had the reason, the stubbornness that comes with it. I can't ask Hank for help,
because.
But I never bought that he wouldn't ask him for help, especially when you have that scene where Hank's like, you know what, when I get back, we'll figure this out. And he's like, all right, cool, cheers. And that's it. And that's effectively the end of Bill. You don't see him again, but you see him later on in the film. But you don't, in terms of plot function, you don't see him again. It's just that's him done, as far as antagonistic force is concerned. It's like, no, let the ants herd you into the elevator and let's get on with stuff. And then you've got, at that point, you've got Scott trying to distract Ghost so that they've got time to get the lab to a place they can grow it and stuff. Whereas, again, you could have probably resolved that by Bill contacting her and saying, oh, by the way, Hank's going to help. You just need to wait a quarter of an hour or so and we'll be fine. Maybe help the get those henchmen off their backs. That'd be useful. And at that point, you could have turned her into a bit more of an ally, I guess, because the car chase already had enough moving parts, and if she was at least helping Hope and so on, it might have got them somewhere a bit quicker. But then you wouldn't be able to get the oh my god, Janet's in danger thing from the ending, which again didn't work.
I think it's just the everything being a bit too convoluted, and each aspect being put there with for a specific purpose.
Yeah, another crappy villain. That's it. Or another crappy set of villains. Walton Goggins was good value because he's Walton Goggins.
True, yes.
You're always going to get something out of him. What about Janet? I mean, you don't know that much about her. She hung on to her family for 30 years and seemed remarkably unfazed by her experience of being in isolation for 30 years.
And not only that, being in isolation in what is effectively an extra planar dimension.
Yeah.
Where the very notion of being inside is supposed to erode your very sense of self, and awareness of reality. Exactly, and there wasn't even the faintest suggestion as to what a remarkable achievement that was.
And what does she eat for 30 years? Like, so many questions.
Yeah, I was just going to mention so many questions that all of which we're just supposed to quietly ignore.
Yeah.
For the sake of narrative cohesion.
And I think that, well, she's more of a trophy that they need to get their hands on by the end of the film. There's that kind of, what's it called? There's that ticking clock and all that stuff that they have to endure to get. They have to beat to get her back into the real world, and you have all this stuff like she possesses Scott. I don't know what that's all about, but there's the nickname she has for Hope, which, whatever, it's Jelly Bean and Peanut. It seems like there's a pet name thing going on here. Although when Scott had to be Janet, I thought it was quite funny. When Paul Rudd had to play Michelle Pfeiffer, it was quite fun.
Yeah, I quite like that. I thought that was done pretty well.
Yeah, even though you have no baseline for how he's acting, so he's just acting a bit softer and more feminine, which could be offensive. I don't know, but she seems quite tough otherwise. But yeah, when he's holding hands with Pym and stuff, it's really funny. Michelle Pfeiffer was decent enough. She didn't have that much screen time. A couple of flashbacks, and then a few minutes when she kind of came back out of the quantum realm. So I think she did quite well with what she had, although there was a lot more potential there. I think. I don't know what they could have done with her otherwise. I feel like the quantum realm is just given kind of lip service anyway. They just kind of use it as a thing to go into, but they don't really tell you how it works.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It just seemed to be something like to try out like a whole bunch of trippy 3D effects, and not something which current theories suggest will become an integral aspect of how the films are to progress now.
Oh, well, that's certainly a given. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have thought like that this would have been the perfect opportunity to introduce like the basic concepts of its operation. So that later on when it's utilised in a more practical sense, then it would feel less like it's been pulled from nowhere, and would actually previously been laying some groundwork for it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting from the quantum realm. Just other than mentioning it occasionally and just explaining that there's energy you can siphon from it and all this stuff. And I do find it interesting in the sense of they talk about the multiverse in Doctor Strange and how magic is you're basically drawing power, harnessing energy from the multiverse and using it to project in our reality. And that's essentially what they do here. So like Janet is a walking battery of whatever this quantum energy is. Scott gets some in a little flask in the post-credit scene. There's mention of the fact that it gave what's her name her powers. Is it Ava? Ghost. Yeah, it's Ava, I think. Her actually.
Yeah, Ava Star.
Yeah. Gives her powers, and it's it's one of those vague. Yeah, this does whatever we need it without any real rules being established. Which this film could have really been about that, I think.
Well, I think it's because so few people properly understand like the finer aspects of quantum theory. But do know that that using quantum as a prefix to pretty much anything will make it sound suitably sci-fi, technologically mysterious.
Well, Scott says that. He says, "Do you guys
exactly
quantum in front of everything?" That was brilliant. I don't know. Maybe we'll learn more about it in Avengers 4 or whatever they're going to call it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm assuming we will, but I would have thought we would have at least learned something about it this time.
Yeah. Other than it's a thing that exists, and we'll just go through it. But it was okay. And the running theme in this film is it was all right.
Pretty much, yeah.
Action sequences.
Yes.
It has a number of them, and I think. Again, the first film's a bit more creative in how it uses size and all this stuff, and the way that it builds up the heist, I loved as well. Just you ants are shorting out the servers, and you're doing this and whatever else. But some of the action was really good. I loved the first sequence with Wasp in the kitchen. It was brilliant. You know, again, it shows how capable and skilled she is. I actually really liked the breaking into the school sequence. I would consider that an action sequence. It was a bit more in line with the heist routes in the first one, and where he gets grown to the size of a young child. It's like, "Hey champ, how was school today?"
Yeah, and the thing is, like, caught by his teacher's like, "You got a whole pass," so like, whatever, I actually don't care.
He just legs it, and the teacher's like, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, it was really good, that part, and it's one of the like they don't really have Hope undergo any of these kind of problems. It's like, yeah, it's your suit that's screwed. Mine's is fine.
I did enjoy the action sequences. And in particular the car chase. Any moment really where there was strategic usage of shrinking and resizing the vehicle at key moments. Because I just brings like another tactical aspect of it into the manoeuvring. One thing I was a little surprised about was how little action moments there are where Scott and Hope were actually together.
Yeah.
Because with any kind of team up film, part of its appeal is seeing how the characters are able to fight together. And given the title of this, then you could technically see it as that. And so I would have thought there would have been more moments where Scott and Hope's various abilities would be used to complement each other.
Yeah. The car chase was immense. I loved the Hot Wheels rally set, I think it was. Shameless bit of product placement. And as far as I'm aware, there is still a Hot Wheels movie in development.
Oh my god.
Which, they've kind of already made it now. What's the Hot Wheels movie going to do that isn't this? And I love the size-changing cars. Although it made me wonder why they just didn't keep them small. Because then they won't know where you are and things like that, but whatever. It was cool.
Yeah, possibly too much of a risk of being run over.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it was really cool, just growing and just flipping the car over and shrinking so you can get around that tight corner really easily and all that stuff. It's the next kind of logical step in these things. I guess, is, you know, you've got all this tech that could shrink, so it shrink other stuff or grow other stuff. And they did a bit of, you know, product-y stuff with the Pez dispenser, which, you know, I wish we'd actually seen a giant, like, piece of Pez candy as well. Maybe Louise is eating it. Louise is eating it later on in the film. That would have been so cool. This giant, giant piece of candy is just over the moon. All his breakfast budget problems.
That's a good point, yes.
They could just grow the pastry, make it huge.
I'm hungry now.
In fact, Pym's shrinking technology could essentially revolutionise just moving house.
Yeah.
You shrink all your stuff, put it in one box, and away you go.
Sorted.
Yeah. Just a thought. The shrinking building was a bit weird because I'm not clear on why everything wasn't like on the floor and smashed up when they were like throwing it around and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's just well, one of those details we're just expected to overlook again.
Yeah, someone mentioned to me that they say something about activating stabilizers or some nonsense, but I didn't catch that line the second time I watched it either. But,
I missed that if it was there.
yeah. But yeah, it's just all this stuff in there, you know, that could be that just gets destroyed just every time they're throwing it around.
It's like all this delicate, one-of-a-kind scientific equipment.
Yeah. But carting it about like a suitcase is pretty cool. And I love it when it grows and you see the suitcase handle and the attached to it as well. It's really fun.
It is like a pretty good moment, just for like the sake of visual comedy, if nothing else.
Well, we got to see Louise involved. Luis, is that how you pronounce his name? Luis involved in the action sequences, driving a fast car. I love that character as well. I think he's brilliant. I think Michael Pena is amazing in that role.
Yeah. Actually, I just like in the scene where they're being interrogated by Walton Goggins' henchman. Yeah. When it's bring out the truth serum. Yeah, and I just thought, oh god, please let him go into one of these rambling stories, please, because that will be so amazing. And he did, and it was glorious.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I just love it that cuts away and you know everyone's like mimicking his mannerisms,
yes,
and things like that. And obviously, it's still his voice coming out of their mouth, but you know, it's Evangeline Lilly mimicking his mannerisms. It's really funny, throwing the phone away and all that. Like what's this got to do with anything? And it's like, oh, you need to let him go. You need to let him finish. It's like, this is where he is emotionally. It's like, well, no, where is he physically? Oh, in the woods. Yeah, it was good. And when he was talking about getting a suit, things like that, I want a suit, maybe no superpowers, maybe a few superpowers. Just the way I don't know, he plays the kind of idiot type really well, although he's clearly pretty smart as well. You know, he knows stuff. He knows how the world works, and I wonder if he's just kind of acting a bit dumb.
Yeah, well, I think it's just because in the context of like what's going on in these films, like is it a bit out of his depth. Yeah. So he's just taking all this weirdness in his stride and just rolling with it, despite the fact that he's not quite sure the whole picture of what's actually happening.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a fun character. What did you think of the FBI officer guy? I think he was okay in small doses, but he was, I don't know. I was like, why is this guy here?
I think he was another thing came from like the multiple script revisions, where he previously might have had a lot more purpose. But now he's just there as a bit of comic relief, but not especially effective, and doesn't really add much. And in the end, he's just a bit distracting and annoying.
Yeah, but I loved it when he was like, "I really needed a win." It just felt really sorry for him that scene, and then he gets to see the giant Ant-Man suit, and then it just deflates. It's like, I've no proof that you're Ant-Man again, but you're totally Ant-Man again. It's really weird. There could be multiple Ant-Men though, I guess, if they really wanted them to. Maybe they'll do that in future films, I don't know, but... So back to the action. I think the fist fights were a bit lacking. Fighting the ghost and stuff. It's mostly because our powers were so vague. It was like, we can hit her sometimes, they can't hit us other times. The hits do nothing, it seems. Yeah, these fights were just kind of like... I'm not... Like, I don't know how this works. If you look at something like Mission Impossible, I mean, Mission Impossible is so much more realistic in the sense that it's just two guys fighting. Alright, one of them's Tom Cruise and the other's like Henry Cavill, which is, they're not humans. There's no way they can be. But like, you get the sense of, this is how the fight's going. Ouch, that looked like it hurt. All that stuff, and it's the perfect example of how you stage a fight scene, and you stage it in a way that you know who's winning, you know what's going on, you know how the environment's being used, etc., etc. And in here, it was just grow, punch, shrink, punch. There's nothing. They're fairly weightless in the sense that it's just difficult to figure out what's actually going on. It's almost going back to Nolan Batman levels of, this fight is not interesting to watch. Because
there's no real sense of how the fight is. It's actually progressing, and if that isn't established in any way, then then you can't really tell if and when it's supposed to be over. Short of one person being smashed into a wall and knocked unconscious.
Yeah,
and things, and because Ghost's powers were so poorly defined, then she was able to do literally anything that was required at any given moment. Because there wasn't anything established to say that she wouldn't be able to.
Well, things like she would say that she can't control her powers that well, but then she wasn't afraid to lift the building that she would possibly drop. Things like that. And then and there's also the perennial issue with someone with any kind of phasing ability is the fact that they never sink through the floor. Yeah, that's always plot convenient. Well, it's just convenient. That's why it doesn't happen. She seemed fairly in control anyway, even though she said that she wasn't. And then at the end, she's healed, I think.
Because reasons.
Yeah, because of magic.
Yeah, like magic quantum energy transference.
Yeah. What's going on? Quantum. No, that's fine. Nothing else. Yeah. I think what else there is with action. Nothing really.
Yeah, no, I think that was pretty much all there was to it.
Scott using the flatbed truck like a scooter.
Oh yes, I was going to mention that. Yes, that was. I like that.
And I also liked that was him reacting to a mistake or reacting to something he didn't expect. He's like, "Oh crap, I'm this size now." Oh well.
I'll just improvise.
Yeah. And then he grows massive again, and then passes out because air is feeling large. I don't know. He just passes out because he shouldn't be that large for that long.
Yeah. Because something to do with not being able to get enough air in to support him.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Seemed to be okay in Civil War, although I think he was bigger than he was in Civil War.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. But he didn't ask for any orange slices this time. So in terms of the wider Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think what they've been doing with more recent films has been really good in the sense that they do stand on their own. Black Panther, you could forget it's part of a shared universe if you wanted to, because it's just so self-contained. This is kind of the same, although the reason for Scott being where he was is because of going to Germany and Civil War, which you can take or leave as a plot detail. You just have to know he's been arrested and he's under house arrest, and I quite like that because it does, because there are references here and there to other stuff that's going on. There's also that you can watch this as a film. There's no one sitting here reminding you that the rest of the universe exists to the detriment of the plot. And I really hate when other films such as The Mummy do that, where Russell Crowe sits and talks about vampires for 20 minutes.
God.
And stuff like that. And I think the MCU continues to be great for that reason. As a shared universe, it's great for that reason. Every film is in that universe, but not connected, not necessarily intimately connected to it. I mean, let's ignore the Marvel Netflix stuff, and Cloak and Dagger had a few references here and there. I haven't seen Runaways yet, but I don't know what that does. But yeah,
that was one of the things that I quite liked about the film. It was precisely like because it could be a standalone thing. Yeah, because I think if there's too many references to the events of other films, or when plot aspects come about because of the events of previous films, then I can sometimes find it a little distracting. Because sometimes you have to think oh wait, what was that again? What happened with that? And and then if there's something that you can't quite remember, it's like, oh wait, did I miss something, or have I forgotten something, or is this something that we've not been told yet and we're going to find out? I sometimes think there's a little too heavy reliance on that, and sometimes films that just need to be their own thing a bit more.
Yeah, you could almost grade this on a bit of a bell curve. You've got. So you look at the Phase 1 movies, where certainly I was like, I can't wait to see the next Marvel film. I hope they reference everything, and then you get to the kind of peak point of that, where it's like the Avengers and everything else, where that all comes together. And then it's after that, it's like, nah, I don't really want them to be talking about the other films every 5 minutes, and I mean, you always get these, where was such and such during this? And it's like, where was Hawkeye during Winter Soldier and stuff like that? And yeah, those are valid questions. During Ant-Man and The Wasp, I'm never wondering where anybody else is. Because he is separate from that anyway. He's had one team-up adventure with other characters. 2 if you count the little bit in his own film. But you get all this... You get this distance because Scott has that distance. And, it no longer really makes sense to have a Captain America movie without other characters being in it at this point. But with Ant-Man, you can still get away with it because he does have his own little world that he kind of inhabits. And obviously you get the major reference to Infinity War, where just so happens that the spoilers for Infinity War, the snap, happens just as he's poking his nose into the quantum realm. It's like, wow, that was inconvenient.
Yeah, some very bad timing, but I actually thought that was a brilliant moment. Actually, and I think it was all more effective, precisely because the whole film wasn't contingent on the wider events of the MCU. Yeah, so then when we got the point, then it's then you're like, oh yeah, it's part of a bigger thing, and bigger events can have an effect on it, even if the story itself doesn't affect them.
I'm guessing Infinity War must be happening just as the kind of the end action sequences are happening, because in Infinity War, I think it's Black Widow that mentions that Scott took a deal, Scott and Clint both took deals that let them be with their families and stuff. So I suppose she wouldn't have any real concept of when that was up, or wouldn't be keeping tabs on it. But You know, it's weird that he would be out of house arrest and see all this stuff happening and then not do anything about it. Although the only thing he would have heard about is the attack in New York and the attack in Edinburgh. Neither of which he would have been able to get to any fast period of time.
I took the end credits, the mid credits scene to actually take place a little bit after the main film actually ends.
It seems like that, yeah, but it's not clear how far after, I guess. But it does specifically say that it's been it's just about 2 years is up. And Infinity War is set 2 years after Civil War. So it might only be it has to be enough time for them to build a piece of equipment, but then again, in these films they can magic up equipment in 5 minutes, I suppose.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because like, everyone's like a world-class genius, so yeah. So they can design invent, build and operate machines like this as quickly as they need to.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's enough evidence for us to make any determinations on timeline. We just know that scene takes place just as Thanos is snapping his fingers, and you know, as luck would have it, all three of them die. Whoops. It's not clear if Scott is spared because he's in the quantum realm or whether he was just lucky.
Yeah, I was wondering that myself. Though I think in the long run it doesn't really matter either way.
No, not really. And there's, I don't know if you saw the casting announcement that they've cast someone as Cassie in Avengers 4.
Oh no, I missed that. No,
and she's like 16 or 17. So it seems that they're going to have an adult Cassie, which will pay off those. I would be your partner. I'd be your good partner. You know, since his last partner turned to dust.
Yes.
Temporarily, of course. Most likely temporarily. But that's about it for MCU references, really. Other than S.H.I.E.L.D., of course. I mentioned S.H.I.E.L.D. That's a big one. And there's... it's not an explicit reference, but people have suggested that the Fantastic Four could use the quantum realm to come into it.
I suppose that works.
Yeah, although they've established that people age at a normal pace in the quantum realm because of, like, Michelle Pfeiffer is 30 years older when she went in. But then they do mention that time vortex thing. So I guess the Fantastic Four could be in a time vortex, ready to pop out at some moment's notice.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Indeed. So yeah, we've got an adult Cassie, or a teenage Cassie in Avengers 4, I guess. I wonder how Stark or whoever will figure out that Scott is trapped in the quantum realm and get him out.
Yeah, that was another thing I was thinking about and couldn't quite think of an immediate answer for.
Yeah. Maybe we'll go looking for him and he'll discover the van with the thing in it and he'll be like, oh, yeah. Although one thing confused me about that post-credit scene. They talk about they talk about getting new healing particles for their new ghost friend. Who is their new ghost friend?
Well, I assumed they meant Ghost.
Well, no, because she's fine. She's fixed.
I assumed that implied it was a temporary fix.
Yeah.
And that she needed like regular doses of quantum energy to remain stable.
Maybe, but because he says new ghost friend, so I don't know.
I think about like new in the fact that they're like previously enemies.
I guess.
Or it could possibly be an allusion to a as yet unseen character.
Could be. Yeah. I don't know. Might never find out. You know, if they don't make another one of these. I don't know how it did well. I don't think it did that well box office wise.
I've not looked into it.
Yeah, me neither, but I think I saw that it was kind of a modest success or whatever. So they might not make another Ant-Man film. You might see him turn up in other films, I don't know. But yeah.
Yes, so modest success being like 300 million.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. We did have to wait a month for it. I don't think it was worth the wait, really. You know.
Damn you, World Cup.
Yeah, I did manage to not be spoiled though, but that's because no one in the US was talking about it, I suppose. There was nothing to talk about.
Yeah, which in retrospect should have been a bit telling.
Yeah, I guess. The mid-credit scene was good. The post-credit scene was dreadful.
Yeah, that was a bit anticlimactic.
It's in one of the trailers as well. The ant playing drums.
Oh yeah,
You see it in one of the trailers. You don't
forgot
see
that.
Like, state of emergency thing on the TV or whatever, but yeah, it's weird. So I think on that note, we've covered this film. I don't know. I just can't dig into it too much. I'm not like. There's nothing there to dig into,
Yeah, because it's pretty much all like surface detail. There's not much deeper substance to a lot of it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. So, what's your conclusion? In conclusion, wrap us up here.
Well. In conclusion, I quite enjoyed the film for what it was. I didn't especially dislike anything about it. Though there's also not too much to rave excitedly about either. So overall, like entertaining, but could have been a lot better.
I would echo that. Yeah, it's fine. I'll watch it once when it comes out on Blu-ray, and it'll probably just be one I go back to whenever I'm doing an MCU rewatch, which happens every now and again. So it'll get, it's fine. In terms of ranking, I had to think about where I would put it in my ranking because I've made a ranking that I'm not updating every time there's a film coming out, but I'll, every now and again I just like to update it. So I updated it before Infinity War. And that'll be linked in the thing, so read it over and see if you agree with me. It's slightly unconventional in that Iron Man 3 is at the bottom. So that's upset some people that have seen it. Yeah, so basically for me it goes Iron Man 3, which is the worst one, then Thor, which I don't like either. Iron Man 2, which,
like the first Thor?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Okay.
Yeah. Iron Man 2, which is, a bit better than Thor, but not by much. Guardians of the Galaxy, which I wasn't a huge fan of. Just didn't find it that funny. Then The Dark World, which, I like, but it's about as disposable as this. And then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So it goes in between Dark World and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 on my list, for me. So Guardians 2 is slightly better than this. But that's where it sits.
Yeah, I've not actually thought about it in enough detail to do a definitive ranking myself, but if I did, I would imagine it would be somewhere around the middle.
Again, baseline of quality.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah, Marvel have a baseline of quality, and this is almost that baseline. It's like, I guess it's it replaces First Avenger as being like, yeah, that was fine. It was just okay. It doesn't do anything offensive, doesn't do anything that's amazing. I really like First Avenger actually, but as a film, it's there's so much potential here, but you rush through everything. Same kind of idea. Right, so on that note, it's probably time to return to our normal sizes and prepare for whatever comes next. Captain Marvel next. Hopefully that won't be a disposable piece of fluff.
Well, I certainly hope not. I'm actually tentatively hopeful about that one.
Yeah, we should get a trailer for that fairly soon, I think. I don't know when. I'm basing this on nothing, by the way, but we should probably get one.
Just because.
October or so. We'll see. It's out in March, so we'll see. So yes, thank you for joining me to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Well, thank you for having me. Yes, and I will now return to normal size before one of my cats eats me.
I should also note that on the notes that I've been referring to throughout this, I put in the heading as Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I don't mean to. So, I kind of want to see that film. I don't know what it would be about, but it's just Aunt May just telling the Wasp that she should. I don't know. I'm of course picturing the Rosemary Harris version of Aunt May in the scenario because, you know, the young and hip one is too young and hip. So yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp, the next big Marvel hit. That was our Ant-Man and the Wasp discussion. Thanks to YouTuber Nstens1117 for the supplied music. If you like what you heard, then hit that subscribe button on iTunes, YouTube, or your podcast app of choice. iTunes users, please leave us a review and a star rating. Should you want to talk to us, we're on Facebook and Twitter under Neil Before Blog, or you can leave us a comment on neilbeforeblog.co.uk. As always, we hope you'll join us on the next Neil Before Pod.